What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Around the Felt, continuing our mini-series here. Starting off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joining me tonight, my co-host Reagan Loescher, and my good friend and diehard Steelers fan, Luke Wayne. Wayner, how we doing, brother?
We're doing good. Another year in the books for the Steelers. Hopefully next year we can improve, maybe get over the Tomlin, 10-7 curse, but we're doing good.
Well, you just mentioned it, the Tomlin 10-7 curse, another season in which they fell short in the playoffs. So, Wayner, we'll start it off with you. What grade did you give your Pittsburgh Steelers for the 2024 season?
Give him a B minus.
B
You want
minus,
reasoning
okay.
behind that?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So based on what the rest of the AFC North thought we were going to do, we exceeded expectations. I was fighting in, social media DMs with Browns fans. They were saying we were going to be at the bottom, followed by, Browns and Bengals and Ravens. But, there was one point where, the Ravens and the Steelers were fighting for the AFC North title.
That is
So
true.
at that token, I think the 2024 iteration of the Steelers beats the 2023 iteration. So that's a moral victory there as well. But as we were alluding to in the beginning of this show, not winning a playoff game is the same exact output as 2023. So you can't go higher than B minus.
That's fair. Reagan, what did you give them?
So I actually got the liberty to go to a Steelers game this year. I went when they beat my Jets bad on Sunday Night Football. If I was just ranking the fans, I'd say A+. They were pretty nice people out there. They kept saying, we're not like those scumbags from Philadelphia. I'm like, wow, you guys are being so nice. They're like, hey, come over to our tailgate. Here's some food, really fatten me up. But I would say a C. And my reason behind it is it's just because they've been here. It just seems like every year it's like Tomlin gets them into the playoffs, but they've been one and done so many years in a row where it's like, look, it's like for different teams, there's different grades. Like if you pointed to a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a while and went one and done, like look at the Denver Broncos. That's a one and done right there. That's not a C. But with the Steelers, they've been here, they've done that. They continue to, go into the offseason where it's like, all right, the defense is sick. They need to get a couple weapons, maybe. They're good at developing weapons, but, maybe get an alpha wide receiver, which, every year it seems like they have one and then it's a new guy coming in. But they can't figure out that quarterback spot. And until they do, I don't know if they're going to take that next step because they haven't found someone since Ben. And even Ben at the, back end of his career really wasn't anything special. So I ultimately gave him a C. And yeah, if they win that many games, get in the wild card game next year, or win a wild card spot next year and get in, but they actually win a couple games in the playoffs, then sure, then we're looking at a B or an A. But right now, it's just too many one and dones. And I'm curious, and we can get into this a little bit later, but it's like, where are Steelers fans at with Tomlin? Is it time to move on? Because me as a Jet fan, I would take that in a heartbeat because we haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. But for Steelers fans, it's kind of like, this is getting a little old, the one and dones.
It's a great point, Reagan. We'll get back to that. I'll just give my grade real quick. I agree with you. I went with a C. Is that not just the definition of your average Steelers season? You're going to have a winning record, but when was the last time they made some noise in the postseason? Right? It's been like 8 years, 9 years. This is what we've just come to know with the Steelers. And I asked the question, I know we're going to get to the quarterbacks later and what they're going to do, but what is your ceiling with Russell Wilson at the helm? I think that was it. I like legitimately, I think that was your ceiling. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to win you a playoff game at this point of his career. And there's definitely some bright spots I like. I love that they've attacked the tackle position the last 2 years in the first round of the draft. Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu. Like, you have some things to be excited about. I like George Pickens. I just don't know if he has the consistency to be your go-to number one. And it's not like he had much help outside of him. Like, I know you took Roman Wilson last year, I think in the third round out of Michigan. He did nothing all year. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, and it was like you need help at the position. So that's alarming. Defensively, like, it was solid, but I felt like the defense has been better in previous years. I mean, they were still 12th in total defense, 8th in scoring defense. Great, but their secondary I felt like kind of struggled a little bit. They were 25th in pass, and I like Joey Porter Jr. a lot, but I think they're going to need some more pieces in the back end of that defense going into next year. But ultimately, for me, it's a C. It's your average Steelers season. Now, a 10-7 playoff berth for a lot of teams is a B. like legitimately. But for
Then,
this
yeah.
team, this is just what they do. They're good year in and year out. And that is why they're in this quarterback position where they're not at the top of the draft to get a guy. They had to take a shot on a Kenny Pickett. It didn't work out. And, until they figure it out, it's just going to be stuck in no man's land in the middle of the draft. And they're going to have to ultimately hit on one. But it's just very difficult to do at that point of the draft, given how consistent they are with winning under Mike Tomlin. But Reagan, back to your point about Mike Tomlin. Waiter, I'm curious your thoughts. Because I know we've seen great coaches leave teams like Andy Reid in Philadelphia where they just couldn't get over the hump, but they would get to the postseason. At what point do you think as a Steelers fan it is time to move on from Mike Tomlin, knowing that he's going to get a job right away if they do move on? It'd probably more likely be a trade.
Right. Yeah. So there's two sides to that sword. One is I can't tell you if since those prime Ben days, if we've actually given Mike Tomlin, the pieces to make a deep playoff run. So that being said, I don't know if I'm in the right to complain about my coach, but on the other side of the sword, has he met his ceiling with this team in the post Ben Roethlisberger era? So right now, in terms of, what else is on the coaching market, I personally would not fire him or trade him at the moment. But if you give me 2 more years of this, which is the end of his contract, might be time to move on.
I can see that. 2 more years. I think if you're still not winning a playoff game, potentially, but he's regarded as one of the best coaches in the league, especially with players. Players love him. There's no doubt he's a great coach and he's building a Hall of Fame resume. But it's at what point is a change of scenery just needed?
100%. Yeah. One of those resume pieces, right? Bringing guys like Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges,
Duck.
Justin, yeah, the Duck, bringing them to a winning season. I don't know how many other coaches can do that.
Yeah. And to your point too, about the roster, they've always had a good defense, but even in Roethlisberger's last year is Najee Harris had a phenomenal rookie year, but when you actually look at it, it was check down Charlie Ben, just really dumping it off to him. And we got to get to the running back position as well. Curious your thoughts. What'd you think of Najee Harris this past year? I thought he was honestly better than what I thought he was going to be. And I know their offensive line was not very good for several years in which Najee was running behind it. I'm a fan of Jaylen Warren, but I felt like he also kind of took a step back this year. So what are your thoughts on the backs?
Yeah, one thing you got to appreciate with Najee is the fact that he's been on this team for 4 years now and hasn't missed a game. That's impressive for any running back in the league. His ball security too is top notch. But in terms of the Steelers bringing him back for, top market running back money, it's not going to happen. They're going to give the keys to Jaylen Warren to be RB1 and then probably, get some depth in either a day 2 draft pick or somewhere, Kenneth Gainwell, for example, could come in and be a good, RB2 to Jaylen Warren's RB1. But you said it, it all starts with the line. The line, we can get to it later if you want, but the line is young. We've invested a lot into it, and we haven't gotten any returns yet, which is frustrating. And I feel like that's the root of our offensive issues.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Fantanu or playing one game doesn't help. And to your point earlier, not getting the help. Well, it obviously doesn't help when 2 of your top 3 picks last year played 2 games or a game each. Because I know Wilson, I saw, got in 1 game and Fantanu got in 1 game. So, and obviously Zach Frazier, he ended up working out pretty well though, right?
Great second round pick. Yeah, he's a bright spot. But yeah, our tackles very up in the air, even though we spent first round capital these past 2 years, which is it's alarming.
Yeah, but you got to give them the shot this next year. I mean, clearly, I think they're going to be starting Broderick Jones at left. I think Troy's going to be at right. You got Frazier on the interior. I mean, let's get in the offseason here. They got $60 million to play with. That's a good number. Biggest question mark, quarterback position. Some key free agents, both quarterbacks from last year, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. We touched on Najee Harris, who only has, we could say good things about Najee, but at the end of the day, he has 1 season in which he has over 4 yards per carry. And that was 23, and it was 4.06. Every other year, it's been below 4. You talk about the offensive line for sure, but Najee doesn't really have that explosiveness. You think a back like his size, he breaks in more tackles. I think if it's a good number, they could bring him back. Mike Williams, whatever, he's gone. What What do they do? I mean, quarterback, let's start there, right?
Yeah.
Who do you want? Russell Wilson, Justin Fields? I think I don't know if they're going to go after like a Sam Darnold type of move.
Yeah. Justin Fields is the answer. I'll give you a reason why Russell Wilson is not the answer. After that 5-game skid at the end of the year, there's footage of Russ and Cam Hayward meeting at the middle of the field.
Yes.
And Russ has that whole rah-rah, like, don't worry, dog, we're going to get him in the playoffs. And Cam just had that 1,000-yard stare. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, man.
Cam just held the Bengals, who were one of the best second-half offenses in the league, to, I believe, 17 points that game, and he, still can't find a way to win at home. So the whole Russ magic that was happening from week 7 to week 12, that's out the door. You got to flip that page, let him move on to maybe your Giants, potentially.
Oh, it's getting floated around. I don't want it. I don't want it. But there's also getting floated around Justin Fields is the apple of the Jets' eye, Reagan. I'm seeing that.
Yeah, get him and G. Wilson back together, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I could see that being a 6-win team right there.
They need to give Justin Fields a pretty decent offer as soon as possible, though, because that's just the way they need to go.
No, I actually think they could go a different perspective in the draft. 21, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they went Jackson Dart. The buzz he's getting recently.
Wow.
He's getting a lot of buzz. I think he's going to go in the first round, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if Pittsburgh's like, hey, we don't like anyone in the free agency market right now. Does Russell Wilson or Justin Fields put us over the top? Maybe, maybe their ceiling is winning a playoff game, but I mean, sitting here in all reality, is that team going to make the Super Bowl or win a couple playoff games? Very unlikely, where it's like, all right, we saw last year's rookie class and, what some of those rookies were able to do between Bo Nix, kind of willing the Broncos to the playoffs. And then Jaden Daniels obviously getting in the NFC Championship game. So maybe Pittsburgh's like, hey, let's go get a rookie quarterback and take that $60 million and go spend it elsewhere to really fill out that roster versus spending some of that on a quarterback.
I'm totally cool with throwing a dart throw on a day 2 pick, but I'm so scarred from that Kenny Pickett pick, a couple of years ago.
It feels similar.
That set the franchise back a couple of years, man. That was a total pander pick, being that when he was from Pitt, a total reach. I think everyone knew that he was not an NFL starting capable quarterback, and they still did it. So at 21 this year for the Steelers, I don't see a quarterback, but day 2, day 3, I'm down. I'm down for a risk like that.
To your point, Reagan, Jackson Dart's getting a lot of buzz. I saw a mock draft today from Charles Davis of NFL Network. Quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, with my Giants taking Jackson Dart at 3. And I'm like, Charles, this is terrible. Joe Shea would be fired. He'd be fired before he can make the second-round pick if he took Dart at 3. And we're talking about Dart at 21 as a reach. You know what I mean?
It's that time of year, though.
It is, dude. I mean? It is that time of year.
I don't know. I think he goes in the first round. I mean, we saw Bo Nix and Penix last year where they're like, yeah, maybe they'll be first rounders. And then they went 8 and 12. So I think for sure he's going to get pushed up draft boards. And I wouldn't even be shocked if we see a 4th quarterback by the time it happens. It always happens. There's so many desperate teams for quarterbacks right now. And I mean, looking at the market, all 3 of our teams are kind of in that right now. And there's not a ton of sexy names. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a very scarce market this year, unfortunately. I mean, I wonder if the Steelers, I don't know if there's anyone out there they would trade for either. I mean, it's just a team that it's like they have the roster. If they can just get the quarterback position, they really could compete.
I wanted them badly to trade for Stafford, but that came in.
Yeah, that would have been a nice one, honestly.
Yeah, but, I'm surprised that they were in the Stafford sweepstakes. Obviously the Raiders and the Giants a lot more desperate. I don't know if Pittsburgh was like, okay, we're fine shelling out $55 million to Stafford, but you look at their roster. They're a playoff caliber team. They just need a quarterback that can shine in the big moments and get them over the hump. And it's like, I am surprised that Stafford wasn't like considering Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think Stafford might add 2 wins to a 10-win team. And at that point, you got to consider them a contender. Win or lose in that playoff game, they're definitely more of a threat than they were the year before. So, yeah, I mean, I think the asking price was a first, right, for Stafford. So,
yeah.
That's
especially for the
tough.
Steelers. It would have been pick 21, and you're giving them $55 million over.
It's
Like,
tough.
yeah. That is
What
tough.
about Rodgers? What about Rodgers? What do you think of that?
Oof.
Yeah, I'm
Listen.
surprised Rodgers in Pittsburgh are flirting a little bit. I haven't seen anything.
I would be lying to you both if I told you that I was not looking at Rodgers and Devontae Adams highlights in this past week. I would be lying to you.
Yeah,
Because that's
true.
the thing. If you bring him in, package deal, two of the biggest concerns for the Steelers in the past 2 years are solved. But again,
Very
the Pittsburgh
true.
Steelers are a franchise that is so anti what Rodgers brings to an organization that I really can't see it happening.
Yeah, he makes a good point there. So going back to pick number 21, is there any position or any guys that you're kind of targeting? Like, I think secondary can make a lot of sense. A guy like Jahdae Barron from Texas is getting a lot of smoke right now. Malachi Starks from Georgia, safety. Maybe they attack the trenches again. Maybe they go with one of these receivers, and Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State or Luther Burden from Missouri. What are you thinking in the first round?
Yeah. So there's 4 positions of need. There's wide receiver, obviously. There's nickel corner. There's an outside corner, and then they're kind of coming up on an upcoming need with Cam Hayward reaching his retirement age. So that defensive lineman is going to be necessary. So March 10th, you're going to see what you can check off on that list with those positions, and then whatever's left, that's what the Steelers are going to attack. Obviously, personally, when I look at the draft board, I want them to secure all the other positions besides defensive linemen. I see some dog defensive linemen.
Dude, great D-line class,
Yeah,
man. Great. Especially in the interior, too.
Derek Harmon,
Walter
Nolan.
Yep.
Oof, if you can get if you can lock up your 21st pick with one of those guys, I'm happy. But if you, put aside the whole wide receiver problem, I love a guy like Golden. Golden
just ran a
like
4.29. 4.29 at the combine, dude. People are starting to talk. He could be the first receiver outside of Travis Hunter, whatever you want to say Travis Hunter is. First one off the board, ahead of even Tet McMillan.
Yeah, I mean, separation and running a 4.29, and
and he's a route runner.
Ball skills, I'll take that any day of the week compared to Van Jefferson on the outside. So yeah,
love Van, former Gator, but he can't be your wide receiver too,
no.
dude. He can't be. He can't be at all.
No.
All right, well, let's get Drock in here for some questions. I think the fans did a good job tonight, and Drock always
what
cooks.
Up, boys?
Drock.
First question of the night coming from Lino for
Let's
the
go.
Steelers. Who ends up as QB1 for the Steelers in 2025?
All right, we talked about it. Let's all stamp our picks. Who is going to be the starting quarterback week 1?
Jackson Dart.
Dart from Reagan. I'm going to go Justin Fields. I think Mike Tomlin had him for a year. And yeah, it might have been questionable when he benched him and went to Wilson, given the record of the team. But then Wilson went on that hot streak, and he went with the vet. He felt like he had a team to win. So I get it. But I think now, after seeing the downfall of Wilson, I think he's going to want to go with Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm going to second that too. Justin Fields, another year with Arthur Smith. So another year of, having the same system, same guy calling plays. It's something that you could sell yourself on. So I'll go Justin Fields too.
So we get
Drock, do you have another question or?
No, I know. I was just waiting to see if Reagan was going to say something.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I'll go a little bit more in depth. I mean,
you're good. You look like you're going to say something. So.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Drock's question right now. Let's move the fuck on from that, whatever that was. Is Mike Tomlin still the right head coach for the Steelers, or has his coaching style grown stale?
Yeah, we touched on this. He's still the guy for now. I think Wayner made a great point. I think he's got 2 years left in his deal. At some point, the front office is going to have to give him a better solution at quarterback. And, that's not really his fault. And it's not like he's in a situation like a Brian Daboll where it's like you're getting worse and worse and you're picking at the top of the draft and you don't have that solution at quarterback. Tomlin wins games, has winning seasons with many quarterbacks that are below league average, right? So he's earned the right to at least have a chance at another shot with a new quarterback. whoever that may be. And whether that's Justin Fields, you know what? If Justin Fields is bad this year, how much of that is actually on Tomlin?
Yeah. I'll kind of second that as well. And also say if Omar Khan, the GM, can cook up just a better roster with Justin Fields at the helm and you still don't win a playoff game, that's when the roof's going to start caving in. I mean, we already have Pittsburgh fans acting like Eagles fans on like radio shows, going absolutely insane about the whole Tomlin situation. So they're already at their wits' end, and one more season like that with a quote unquote better roster because of the $60 million that you could spend in free agency, that might be the tipping point. But right now, I'm going to stick with Tomlin being the right guy.
I would love to see them do something different, like with draft. And I guess it's not something different because they did have draft Kenny Pickett. I would like to see them go after a rookie quarterback to try to mix it up. I just still don't think there's anyone on the market right now that's going to change for what the Steelers are. Like, I ultimately think, yeah, you can get a couple more guys, but no matter what, all the quarterbacks out there aren't going to elevate them enough. So that's my biggest concern for them. I would say, yeah, he is the right guy. Like, and it's such a weird spot because I don't know if you can ever get rid of him unless he has like a losing season. Because it's just like he's won you the Super Bowl, he consistently wins, and for like the blank, like it's still the Blank family. No, wait, no, what's the family?
Art
Arthur
Rooney.
Blank
Rooney's.
is Atlanta. Yeah, that's Atlanta.
Rooney's. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Rooney family. For them, it's like the team's relevant enough that you're consistently putting fans in the stands. Do you want to jeopardize it? Because at the end of the day, winning's cool and all, but they care about the money. So if they go and fire Mike Tomlin, you risk, going into poverty for a very long time. It's not like for sure that there's someone better out there. And then you risk the chance of, hey, now we just got rid of a guy that got us into the playoffs consistently. Now we're a dumpster fire and we consistently miss the playoffs. So it's like, now the fans aren't coming as much, and the organization that was once, valued for all this money and regarded as one of the top ones has now been struggling. And then people are looking at them as like the Dallas Cowboys in that light, and teams like that have, had such high peaks, but just in recent memory have not been able to really do it and then miss playoffs in like weird fashions.
Yeah. Some franchises would kill for 10-7. Steelers fans having 6 Super Bowls, they kill for Super Bowls. So that's the weird situation you're in. But yeah, again, Tomlin gets you 10-7. Let's see if he can elevate one more time at least.
Yeah, I think the game plan is give Justin Fields a 2-year deal. Use pick 21 to upgrade your roster, and you know what? Next year's quarterback class is better. Maybe next year you take a shot and you try to move up the board a little bit because chances are they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games.
And I want to say real quick, I know we talked about how I went to the Steelers Stadium last year, but it might be one of the coolest stadiums at night, like with the smoke and stuff. And I believe they shot the one Batman movie there, but that stadium is so freaking cool at night. I would definitely say, if you're listening to this, get out to Pittsburgh and see a game, especially at night, the smoke and stuff. It was weird being an outsider, but seeing all those terrible towels and all the yellow and black throughout the stadium, I'm like, this is freaking cool.
Did you get a Renegade, Reagan? Did you get a Renegade experience?
I got a Renegade experience, and I'm sitting there just like, what the fuck is going on? We were up like 16-15, or it was a weird score at halftime, and then the Steelers just went nuclear with Russ's first game of the year, and I'm sitting there just like, great, the Jets season's unfolding. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? And then I got all these Steelers fans that are just like going nuts, and I'm like, but cool stadium for sure.
Always will be Heinz Field, never Acrisure.
Yeah,
Always
come on. That's probably the worst thing they've done in recent memory.
Might be the curse.
The curse.
You don't know.
The curse.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that wraps up our Steelers episode. Hit our comments. What should the Steelers do at quarterback? What do you want to do with pick 21? Wayner, appreciate you coming on the pod, man. Any last words?
No last words. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a lot of fun. And yeah, when that mock draft comes around in a couple of weeks, send me the invite. I'll be there.
Absolutely.
And then who are they taking right now? Who's do we get a tease of who you're thinking, or are you going to save that?
I don't know why, but Walter Nolan just looks like a Steeler to me.
Let's go.
Let's see how that. We'll see.
He's on the board in a couple weeks for you.
Mm-hmm.